Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, let us discuss the UPSC CIVILS Prelims question paper, the first question paper GS1. The exam was conducted on 28th May 2023. Friends, every day I'm uploading daily current affairs videos. Apart from that, in between I'll be uploading question papers of previous years of various examination, so that once we have a look at all these papers, we'll have a fair understanding of what kind of questions are being asked in the exam and how to prepare for the exam. uh, I myself had taken coaching for this exam and had appeared a few times. I have experience of this exam. I can say it is not mandatory or compulsory to take coaching to crack civil services. Now let us discuss some questions. Once you go through that, you'll really understand how these questions are being framed, from which sources they are asking. Is it really necessary, the coaching that we are talking about? Will you be not able to crack the exam without taking it? So let's go into the detail. Let's look at these questions. This is the part one of the paper. In this, 25 questions are discussed, because if I discuss all the 100 questions in a single video, it will be very lengthy and you won't be able to stay attentive for the entire period. So I just want to split into four parts. This is the part one. The first 25 questions are discussed here. So let's begin here. Question number one. In which of the following region was Dhanyakataka, which flourished as a prominent Buddhist center under the Mahasanghikas, located? Dhanyakataka. This is the name of a place. So let us discuss the questions based on two categories. Let us divide them into two categories. Static, that is from NCERT books or textbooks or standard books. And second one is based on news, current affairs, general awareness, etc. So this basically falls under the category of a static. If you read the religion, like there were many questions asked from Buddhism, Jainism, religions. Now in this 25 questions itself, we'll find almost 3 to 4 questions based on these religions. Same, this question belongs to Buddhism. In which of the following region was Dhanyakataka, which flourished as a prominent Buddhist center under the Mahasanghikas, located? This place, Dhanyakataka, is located in Andhra, the present Andhra Pradesh. Dhanyakataka is also called as Dhanyakutta. It is a village in Palnadu district of the Indian state of Andhra Pradesh. It was the location of a large Buddhist stupa erected by Satavahana rulers during pre-Mauryan times. Let's move on to next question. Even this question relates to Buddhism. With reference to ancient India, consider the following statements. The concept of stupa is Buddhist in origin. Stupa was generally a repository of relics. Stupa was a votive and commemorative structure in Buddhist tradition. Friends, I would like to give a disclaimer here. This is not the final key. The final key will be released by UPSC later. So most of these questions, the answers for these questions are framed from different newspapers, different standard books like NCERTs, and standard textbooks for civil services. I have framed these answers. If for a few questions, one or two, there might be a slight change in the answer. Like for example, this question. The concept of stupa is Buddhist in origin. This is actually not correct. This is a wrong. I mean, they are asking how many of the above statements are correct. First one is not correct. The concept of stupa is pre-Buddhist in origin. The concept of stupa existed even before the religion Buddhism. Stupa was generally a repository of relics. Stupa was generally a repository of relics. This is correct actually. Some people might say this is wrong, but I believe that this statement is correct, because one of the primary functions of a stupa is to serve as a repository of relics. Relics are objects associated with the Buddha, such as his physical remains, personal belongings, or items used by him. They are considered sacred and hold great spiritual significance in Buddhism. So there, the question, you have to read the statement. It is saying that stupa was generally a repository of relics. It is not saying that stupa is just a repository of relics. No, it is generally a repository of relics. Apart from that, there might be some other things in the stupa as well. So I consider this statement as correct. And finally, stupa was a votive and commemorative structure in the Buddhist tradition. This statement is also correct. Stupas are also associated with votive and commemorative purposes. Stupas are often built as acts of devotion and as offerings to the Buddha or other enlightened beings. Stupas are also constructed to commemorate significant events, individuals, or historical site. So the correct answer will be option B. Only two are correct. Next question. With reference to ancient South India, Korkal, Poompuhar and Muchiri were well known as. The first two questions were from the Buddhist religion. They are from static part. They are from standard textbooks. And this question is a current affairs question. If you were reading the newspaper prior to the examination, friends, whoever is preparing for civil services or any other competitive exam, but especially civils, reading newspaper is indispensable. If you can read day in and day out a couple of standard newspapers and make notes out of it and practice those questions, I personally believe that coaching is not required. You can crack the exam on your own. Now, this question, how many of you can answer this? With reference to ancient South India, Korkal, Poompuhar, and Muchiri were well known as. And second part, you have to be smart while attempting the answers. Sometimes you won't be able to 100% get to the answer. You try to eliminate them. Capital cities, sports, centers of iron and steel making, shrines of Jain Tirthankaras. Look, South India is south of Vindhyas, the Maharashtra, below Maharashtra, Andhra, Telangana, Karnataka, Kerala, Pondicherry. These were the South Indian states. Okay, so one common feature of these South Indian states is all these states have a coastline. They have a long coastline. Andhra Pradesh has a coastline, Tamil Nadu, then Karnataka, except Telangana is little landlocked, and Kerala, all these have a coastline. So there is a high probability that these three names that the question is talking about, they might be port cities. And also exactly, yeah, the correct answer is ports. The options are capital cities, ports, centers of iron and steel making, and shrines of Jain Tirthankaras. The correct answer is ports. This Korkai and Poompuhar, these two are ancient ports in Tamil Nadu. This news has come in the Hindu newspaper in September 2022. At that time, there was a news that excavation at the ancient port city of Korkai began during September 22. Korkai was the early port of Pandyan rulers before they shifted their capital to Madurai. Some researchers in January have claimed to have found traces of an ancient port city buried under sea at a depth of 50 to 100 meters, about 30 to 40 kilometers off the coast of the present day Poompuhar in Mailaduturai district. So these two names appeared in the newspaper. If you read the newspaper and make notes out of it, so you could have easily answered this question. So this is a dynamic question. This is from current affairs and newspapers. And finally, the bustling seaport of Mujris, sometimes known as Muchiri or Vanchi locally, is an ancient port city in the present day Kerala state. As I said, I was trying to eliminate it based on the coastlines of South India. These two, Korka and Poompuhar, are from Tamil Nadu and Muchiri is from Kerala. So even if you had known at least one name, if you had known at least that Korka is a port city, you could have blindly answered that other two also are port cities. There was no confusion at all. So newspaper reading is must. Try to read standard newspapers without missing them. Let's move on to the next question. Which one of the following explains the practice of Vattakirutal as mentioned in Sangam poems? Vattakirutal. So this is from standard textbooks. I think it is a little difficult to answer. I'm not sure in which textbook this is there, but Vattakirutal, what exactly it means? It means a king defeated in a battle committing ritual suicide by starving himself to death. Option D is the correct answer. Vattakirutal is a form of Tamil Nadu ritual by fasting unto death. It was especially widespread during the Sangam age. The Tamil kings, in order to save their honor and prestige, were prepared to meet their death facing north and never would turn back in battle. Let's move on to next question. Question number 5. Consider the following dynasties: Hoysala, Gahadawala, Kakatiya, Yadava. How many of the above dynasties established their kingdoms in early 8th century AD? This is kind of bread and butter standard question from history, ancient history. If you read, you could have easily answered this question. How many of the above dynasties established their kingdoms in the early 8th century AD? None of these dynasties were established in the early 8th century AD. All the four were established after 8th century only. So the answer is option D, none. If you look at Hoysala dynasty, they ruled between 10th to 14th century in the present day Karnataka. Gahadawala dynasty, they ruled from late 11th to 12th century in the present day Uttar Pradesh. Kakatiya dynasty from 12th to 14th century in the present day Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. And Yadava dynasty, also known as Siuna dynasty, ruled parts of present day Maharashtra and Karnataka, India from the late 9th to early 14th century. So none of these four dynasties were in the early 8th century. So the correct answer is option D, none. With reference to ancient Indian history, consider the following pairs. The literary work and author. Devi Chandragupta, Bilhana, Hammira Mahakavya, Naina Chandrasuri, Milinda Panha, Nagarjuna, Niti Vakya Mitra, Somadeva Suri. How many of the above pairs are correctly matched? Answer is option C. Only 3 pairs are correctly matched. Let's look at each pair separately. Pair 1. Devi Chandraguptam. That is a Sanskrit play written by Vishaka Deva. That is Vishaka Datta. It's the story of Gupta king Ramagupta who decides to surrender his queen Dhruva Devi to a Shaka invader, but his younger brother Chandragupta enters the enemy camp disguised as queen and kills the enemy. So first one you can eliminate. First pair is incorrectly matched. Second one is correctly matched. Hamira Mahakavya is an epic Sanskrit poem written by 15th century Jain scholar Nayana Chandra Suri. It is a biography of 13th century Jhamana king Hamira. Third pair is also correctly matched. The Milinda Panha, also called as the Debate of King Milinda, Questions of King Milinda, is a famous Pali Buddhist text written by Nagasena. And finally, pair 4 is also correctly matched. Somadeva Suri was a South Indian Jain monk. He wrote Niti Vakya Matram, that is the nectar of the science of polity, a treatise on statecraft. So this is a static question directly from ancient Indian history. If you do the literary work, Indian art, culture, and all those books, if you read the famous books written by poets. Next question. Again, we already had a few questions related to Buddhism and Jainism, and now once again, souls are not only the property of animal and plant life, but also of rocks, running water, and many other natural objects not looked on as living by other religious sects. The above statement reflects one of the core beliefs of which one of the following religion sects of ancient India? Buddhism, Jainism, Shaivism, Vaishnavism. The correct answer is option B, Jainism. The statement reflects one of the core beliefs of Jainism. Jainism is an ancient Indian religion that emphasizes non-violence and the belief that everything in the universe has a soul or life force, which is called as Jiva. This includes not only animals and plants, but also rocks, water, and other natural objects. Jainism teaches that all living beings, regardless of their size or form, should be respected and not harmed as they all possess souls. Question number 8. This is a static question. Who among the following rulers of Vijayanagara Empire constructed a large dam across Tungabhadra River and a canal cum aqueduct several kilometers long from the river to the capital city? The answer is option A, Devaraya I. Devaraya I, who ruled the Vijayanagara Empire from 1406 to 1422, constructed a large dam across the Tungabhadra River and a canal cum aqueduct several kilometers long from the river to the capital city. Question number 9. Who among the following rulers of medieval Gujarat surrendered Diu to Portuguese? This is a static question from ancient Indian history. The correct answer is option C, Bahadur Shah. Bahadur Shah was the Sultan of Gujarat from 1526 to 1537. He was a capable ruler and expanded the Gujarat Sultanate. He also built a strong navy and was able to defeat the Portuguese in several battles. But eventually, the Portuguese defeated him in 1535 and was forced to surrender Diu to them and was also forced to pay a large amount of tribute to them. Question number 10. Bread and butter Indian polity question. By which one of the following acts was the Governor General of Bengal designated as the Governor General of India? Correct answer is the Charter Act of 1833. It's a simple question. Whoever reads Indian history, it starts with this. The Charter Act of 1833 made the Governor General of Bengal as Governor General of India, and William Bentinck thus became the first Governor General of India. We have completed 10 questions, friends. Looking at the difficulty level, we can say that these questions could have been answered from a static books and current affairs. Next question. In essence, what does due process of law mean? Due process of law, it means actually fair application of law. Article 21 of the Constitution states that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to the procedure established by the law. In Article 21, the term procedure established by the law is used. The procedure established by law means that a law is duly enacted by the legislature or the concerned body is valid only if the correct procedure has been followed to the letter. I know due process of law means it is a doctrine that not only checks if there is a law to deprive the life and personal liberty of a person, but also ensures that the law is made fair and just. So thus, due process of law means fair and just application of the law. This is a static question from Indian polity. Question number 12. Consider the following two statements. Statement 1. In India, prisons are managed by state governments with their own rules and regulations for the day-to-day administration of prisons. Statement 2. In India, prisons are governed by the Prisons Act 1894, which expressly kept the subject of prisons in the control of provincial governments. Both the statements are correct, and statement 2 is the correct explanation of statement 1. Correct answer is option A. Yes, in India, prisons are managed by the state governments because it is a provincial subject. Statement 1 is correct. Prison is a state subject under list 2 of the 7th schedule in the constitution. 7th schedule of the constitution deals with the subjects with which agriculture belongs to, whether central government or state government or in the concurrent list, which list it is. So this prison is a state list in the 7th schedule. States have the primary role, responsibility and power to change the current prison laws, rules and regulations. Hence it is true that prisons are managed by the state government with their own rules and regulations. Statement 2 is also correct. The management and administration of prisons falls exclusively in the domain of the state governments and is governed by the Prisons Act 1894 and the prison manuals of the respective state governments. Hence, it is true that Prisons Act 1894 kept the subject of prisons in the provincial government, that is in the hands of the state governments, and this explains why state governments have the power to frame their own rules and regulations regarding prison management. So both statements are correct, and the second statement is a correct explanation of statement 1. Question number 13. Which one of the following statements best reflects the chief purpose of the Constitution of India? It is asking the chief purpose of the Constitution of India. In essence, all the options look correct. Option A, it determines the objectives for the making of necessary laws. It enables the creation of political offices and a government. It defines and limits the powers of government. It secures social justice, social equality, and social security. But the chief purpose of the Constitution is it defines and limits the powers of government. The Constitution contains the basic principles and laws of a nation that determines the powers and duties of the government. A constitution serves multiple purposes. It provides a legitimate legal and political basis for the government to propose and enact laws, organizing public service, and settling disputes. Although the Constitution determines the objectives, that is, the directive principles of state policy for making necessary laws and aims to promote social, economic, and political democracy, its chief purpose is to limit the power of government. In fact, the constitutional government is by definition a limited government. This is a static question from Indian polity. Question number 14. In India, which one of the following constitutional amendments was widely believed to be enacted to overcome the judicial interpretations of the fundamental rights? So this is also a slightly confusing question. There can be possible different answers. I think the answer is the first amendment that I have given. We have to finally check with the UPSC. Some people believe it is the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, that is also called as the mini constitution, but I believe it is the first amendment. This was the first amendment. The first amendment to the Constitution was enacted in 1951. It was indeed enacted to overcome certain judicial interpretations of the fundamental rights. One of the key cases that led to this amendment was the State of Madras versus Srimati Champakam Durai Rajan case 1951, where the Supreme Court of India struck down a government order that provided for caste-based reservations in state-funded education. The court ruled that this was in violation of the right to equality as stated in Article 15 of the Constitution. In response, the government under Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru introduced the first amendment which added clause 4 to Article 15. This clause stated that nothing in this article or in clause 2 of Article 29 shall prevent the state from making any special provision for the advancement of any socially and educationally backward classes of citizens or for the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. This allowed for reservation policies in state founded education and state employment. Other provisions in the First Amendment impose reasonable restrictions on the right to freedom of speech and expression and right to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade, or business. While the other amendments mentioned also made significant changes to the Constitution, They were not primarily directed at overcoming judicial interpretations of fundamental rights in the First Amendment was. So mostly this Amendment is widely believed as the one. This can be the correct answer. Question number 15. Consider the following organizations or bodies in India: the National Commission for Backward Classes, the National Human Rights Commission, the National Law Commission, the National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission. I have uploaded a daily current affairs video on 10th. The 10th video, if you go and look, I'll provide the link in the description. So I asked a question regarding Law Commission. Yesterday, a few days back, Law Commission has released a report regarding the Sedition Act, and they have recommended for increase in punishment from 3 years to 7 years. While giving that question, I was saying that this question was asked in Civil Services Prelims exam. Which of the organizations or bodies is constitutional? In that case, the Law Commission is not a constitutional body. Even in this, how many of them are constitutional bodies? Correct answer is only one is constitutional body. That is only option 1, National Commission for Backward Classes. This was originally constituted as a statutory body by establishing it under the provisions of National Commission for Backward Classes 1993. But the NCBC was accorded constitutional status by the 102nd Constitutional Amendment Act, which inserted Article 338B, forming a National Commission for Backward Classes. Hence, National Commission for Backward Class is a constitutional body. Option 2 is incorrect. National Human Rights Commission is not a constitutional body. It is a statutory body constituted in 1993 under the Protection of Human Rights Act. Option 3 is also incorrect. The National Law Commission is neither a constitutional body nor a statutory body. It was just constituted by a notification of the Government of India, Ministry of Law and Justice, Department of Legal Affairs. Option 4 is incorrect. National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission of India is a statutory body established under the Consumer Protection Act 1986. This is also static question from Indian polity. Question number 16. A static question from Indian polity. Standard book. If you read Lakshmikant's book, that is more than sufficient for this. Consider the following statements. Question number 1. If the election of the President of India is declared void by the Supreme Court of India, all the acts done by him or her in the performance of duties of his or her office of President before the date of decision becomes invalid. Question number 2. Election for the post of President of India can be postponed on the ground that some legislative assemblies have been dissolved and elections are yet to take place. Option 3. When a bill is presented to the President of India, the Constitution prescribes time limits within which he or she has to declare his or her assent. How many of the above statements are correct? Option D. None of the statements are correct. Let's look at each individual statement. Statement 1 is incorrect. If the election of a person as president is declared void by the Supreme Court, acts done by him before the date of such declaration of the Supreme Court are not invalidated and they continue to remain in force. Now, statement 2 is also incorrect. The Supreme Court in 1974 held that the dissolution of state legislative assembly will not be a ground for preventing the holding of the election on the expiry of the term of the president, nor can it be a ground to suggest that the election to office of the president could be held only after the election to the state is held, where the legislative assembly of a state is dissolved. Statement 3 is also incorrect because Constitution doesn't prescribe any time limit within which the president has to take decision with respect to a bill presented to him or her. Article 111 states the same thing. Thus, the President of India can simply keep the bills pending for an indefinite period. So, none of the statements given in the question are correct. This is a static question directly from Indian polity. Again, another static question from Indian polity. With reference to Finance Bill and Money Bill in the Indian Parliament, consider the following statements. When the Lok Sabha transmits Finance Bill to the Rajya Sabha, it can amend or reject the bill. When the Lok Sabha transmits Money Bill to the Rajya Sabha, it cannot amend or reject the bill, it can only make recommendations. In the case of disagreement between the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, there is no joint sitting for Money Bill, but a joint sitting becomes necessary for Finance Bill. How many of the above statements are correct? So this question is basically about Money Bill and Finance Bill, but actually Finance Bill is also a kind of a Money Bill. So statement 1 is incorrect, as the finance bill is a type of money bill. It, like the money bills, cannot be either rejected or amended by the Rajya Sabha. This finance bill means union budget that we commonly speak of. The finance bill is a part of the union budget, stipulating all the legal amendments required for the changes in taxation proposed by the finance minister. As per Article 110 of the Constitution of India, the finance bill is a money bill. Statement 2 is correct because money bills cannot be amended or rejected by the Rajya Sabha. The Rajya Sabha should return the bill with or without recommendations, which may be accepted or rejected by the Lok Sabha. Statement 3 is incorrect. As the finance bill is also a type of a money bill, there is no provision of joint sitting for money bill as well as a finance bill. This is a static question from Indian polity. Question number 18. Once the central government notifies an area as a community reserve, option 1, the chief wildlife warden of the state becomes the governing authority of such forest. Hunting is not allowed in such area. People of such area are allowed to collect non-timber forest produce. People of such area are allowed traditional agricultural practices. How many of the above statements are correct? Option C, only 3 are correct. First, community reserves in India are terms denoting protected areas of India which typically act as buffer zones to or connectors and migration corridors between established national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, and reserved and protected forests of India. Statement 1 is correct. As per the Section 33 of the Wildlife Protection Act, once the center notifies an area as a community reserve, the chief wildlife warden of the state becomes the governing authority of the forest, whose consent is required for all decisions pertaining to the area. Statement 2 is also correct. After a forest has been made into a community reserve, people are not allowed to hunt there. Thus, hunting is prohibited in community reserves. Statement 3 is correct and 4 is incorrect. The people of community reserves are allowed to collect non-timber forest produce. There is no restriction on that. But those people are not allowed to use community reserve for traditional agriculture practices such as shifting cultivation, which is also called as zoom cultivation. Question number 19. With reference to scheduled areas in India, consider the following statements. Within a state, the notification of an area as scheduled area takes place through an order of the president. B. The largest administrative unit forming the scheduled area is the district and the lowest is the cluster of villages in the block. Option C. The chief ministers of the concerned states are required to submit annual reports to the Union Home Ministry on the administration of scheduled areas in the states. How many of the above statements are correct? Two statements are correct. Statement 1 is correct. As per Article 244(1) of the Constitution's fifth schedule, scheduled areas are areas that the President may declare by order after consultation with the governor of that particular state. Statement 2 is also correct. District is considered as the largest administrative unit which forms the scheduled area, while the lowest administrative unit is the cluster of villages in the block. And statement 3 is incorrect. The fifth schedule to the Constitution of India states in para 3 that the governor of each state having scheduled areas therein shall annually or whenever so required by the president make a report to the president regarding the administration of the scheduled areas in that area, and the executive power of the union shall extend to giving of directions to the state as to the administration of the said areas. So it is the government who has to submit the report, not the chief minister. Question number 20. Statement 1. The Supreme Court of India has held in some judgments that the reservation policies under Article 16(4) of the Constitution of India would be limited by Article 335 for maintenance of efficiency of administration. Statement 2. Article 335 of the Constitution of India defines the term efficiency of administration. Actually, this is a simple question because it is not easy, or it is logically speaking, Article 335 doesn't define efficiency of administration. Even if you hadn't read off this Article 335, by trial and error you can remove, because it is not a single term to define efficiency of administration. How do you define it? It is actually difficult to define it. So statement 2 is simply incorrect, that Article 335 of the Constitution doesn't define the efficiency of administration. The correct answer is only statement 1 is correct. It has frequently been argued that the reservation is contrary to efficiency and merit. Even the Supreme Court of India appeared to have agreed with this argument in some of its judgments, holding that Article 335's mention of the term efficiency of administration will limit the scope of Article 16(4)'s provision for reservation in services. And as I said, statement 2 is incorrect. Article 335 doesn't define efficiency of administration. It just mentions about the efficiency of administration. Question number 21. India, despite having uranium deposits, depends on coal for most of its electricity production. There is no doubt about it. This statement is 100% correct. We have uranium deposit, but we depend on coal for most of our electricity production. Uranium enriched to the extent of at least 60% is required for the production of electricity. Which one of the following is correct in respect of the above statements? So first one is correct, but statement 2 is incorrect. Because U-235 isotope is enriched to 3 to 5% from the natural state of 0.7%, not 60%, to create nuclear fuel. Question number 22. Marsupials are not naturally found in India. Statement 2. Marsupials can thrive only in montane grasslands with no predators. This is a question based on current affairs. In West Bengal, some people have found, it is reported in the news, that marsupials were illegally smuggled into the states and they were found on roads. So statement 1 is absolutely correct because they are not naturally found in India. Basically, they are found in Australia like kangaroos. So statement 1 is incorrect. Statement 2. Marsupials can thrive only in montane grasslands with no predators. Even this is wrong actually. Statement 2 is wrong because they are a diverse group of animals that can thrive in various habitats, including forests, deserts, and grasslands. They have adapted to different environments and can be found in range of ecosystems with varying levels of predators. So only statement 1 is correct and 2 is incorrect. And they were recently reported, that is in April 2023, in West Bengal after they were believed to be smuggled into India. It's a current affairs question. Question number 23. Invasive Species Specialist Group that develops Global Invasive Species Database belongs to which one of the following organizations? The IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature, United Nations Environment Program, United Nations World Commission for Environment and Development, the Worldwide Fund for Nature. This IUCN, the correct answer is IUCN. The Invasive Species Specialist Group is a global network of scientific and policy experts on invasive species organized under the auspices of the Species Survival Commission of the IUCN. Question number 24. Consider the following fauna: lion-tailed macaw, Malabar civet, sambar deer. How many of the above are generally nocturnal or most active after sunset? So this is also slightly confusing question with the answers. The correct answer is option B, only two, but it can change as per UPSC. But this is what I found. I've searched online and I've searched various sources, but I believe only two are correct. One is lion-tailed macaw. It is endemic to the Western Ghats of India. It is diurnal, which means it is most active during the daytime and not nocturnal. So first one is not correct. Malabar civet. The Malabar civet is primarily nocturnal, which means it is most active after sunset and during the night. Same with sambar deer. The sambar deer is crepuscular, which means it is most active during twilight hours, primarily at dawn and dusk. It may also be active during the night, but it is not strictly nocturnal. And final question, question number 25. Which of the following organisms perform waggle dance for others of their kin to indicate the direction and the distance to a source of their food? This question was also from the current affairs. This news appeared in one of the newspapers regarding the science and technology and environment. We had a question in the newspaper. Waggle dance is performed by honeybees. The bee dance, which is also called as the waggle dance, is a communication tool used between worker bees and other colony members. Waggle dance is used to share the location of pollen sources, nectar, water, other food sources, threads, and even possible new beehives to call home. So friends, here ends all the 25 questions of part 1. Now I'll be coming up with part 2, 3 and 4. I'll discuss all the questions. So by looking at these questions, you can have a broad understanding that we can answer these questions by reading static books, that is the standard books, NCRTs, Polity, Lakshmikant, Ramesh Singh Economy. These are basic things that are required. And as I said, newspaper reading is indispensable. We have to read the newspapers. There is no other way. If newspaper reading is not there every single day, then it is very difficult. Do not rely on monthly pile ups or yearly books that will be given by various institutions. So friends, if you like the video, do like it, share among your friends, and subscribe to my channel. Let's meet in the next video. Have a good day.